I should have never opened that door. I stood frozen in my hallway, heart pounding, when I saw him through the glass. Kirk, my husband's coworker, smiling like he had every right to be there. But Craig was not home. He was out of town for the weekend. And I was in no state to entertain company. Not after the fight Craig and I just had over the phone. I remember staring at Kirk's face, thinking how strange it was that someone I barely knew looked at me like he knew everything. I opened the door anyway. And in that moment, I crossed a line I could never uncross. Because what Kirk brought into my home that night was not just his presence. It was a storm I was not prepared for. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back. Hey, everyone. Before I dive deeper into this story, I want to say a big thank you to everyone subscribed to this channel. I truly appreciate your support. If you are new here or have been watching but have not subscribed yet, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support is the fuel that keeps this channel going. Please do not forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts at the end. I read every word, and your engagement means everything to me. Now back to what happened that night. My name is Paula. I live in Oregon with my husband Craig. We have been married for 7 years. Craig is a finance manager at a construction firm in town. He is steady, predictable, and always careful with the people he brings into his life. For the longest time, I never met any of his coworkers, not even during company events. He would go alone. I used to find it odd, but he always said he wanted to keep his work life and home life separate. Until 2 months ago, when he mentioned Kirk. New guy, Craig said. A little too smooth for my taste, but the boss likes him. That was it. One passing comment. Nothing more. So when Kirk showed up at our doorstep that Friday evening, I was confused. I had just gotten off the phone with Craig. We fought. Again. About how distant he had become. How I felt invisible in my own home. He said I was overthinking things. That I was being needy. He always used that word like a dagger. So when I heard the knock and saw Kirk standing there, holding a bottle of wine and a confident smile, I felt disarmed. He said Craig had told him where we lived, and since he was in the neighborhood, he thought he would say hello. I should have sent him away. But I was tired of being alone. Tired of feeling like a ghost in my own marriage. And Kirk, he looked at me like I was real. I let him in. He walked in like he belonged, complimenting the house, asking about the paintings on the wall, smiling just a little too long. I remember wondering how someone so charming could work beside Craig without clashing every single day. We sat in the living room. I poured us each a glass of wine. Kirk was easy to talk to. Too easy. He asked questions about how Craig and I met, what I did before I moved to Oregon. Harmless questions. But his tone felt like he was searching for something beneath my answers. Then he said something that stopped me cold. I used to know someone who looked like you, he said, staring at me too closely. Back in San Diego. Same fire in the eyes. Same way of hiding pain behind a perfect smile. I had never told Craig about San Diego, about who I was before him. That part of my life was buried. So how did Kirk know? I stood up, pretending I needed to check the kitchen. I needed a moment to breathe. But as I stepped away, I felt it in my bones. Kirk did not just come by on a whim. He came with a purpose. And I had just invited danger through my front door. I did not return to the living room right away. I stood behind the kitchen wall, heart thudding in my ears, replaying Kirk's words over and over again. Back in San Diego. Same fire in the eyes. Same way of hiding pain behind a perfect smile. That was no coincidence. He was not guessing. He knew something. I had worked hard to bury San Diego. Every mistake, every name, every lie. I left it behind when I met Craig. He never asked about my past, and I never offered it. It was safer that way. But now, With Kirk sitting casually in my home, sipping wine and peeling back layers I thought were long gone, everything felt exposed. I walked back into the room, holding my expression steady. I smiled like nothing was wrong, but my stomach twisted. So I said, "What did you mean by that? About someone like me?" Kirk tilted his head and gave a slow smile. "Just a memory. Some people are hard to forget." He did not say more, and I did not press him. But in that silence, something shifted. The air was heavy with tension. I could feel his eyes watching me, studying me. Not like a man interested in flirtation, but like someone piecing together a puzzle. I suddenly felt like prey. He leaned back and glanced around the room. "Craig talks about you, you know. Says you are strong, independent, the kind of woman who keeps him grounded." I nodded, unsure where he was going with it. Then he added, "Funny though. He also told our boss last week he thinks you are slipping away from him." I blinked.
"What?" Kirk sipped his wine. "Yeah."
"He thinks you are pulling back, emotionally. That maybe you are not as committed as you used to be." That sounded like Craig, but it also sounded rehearsed. Like Kirk was baiting me. "Why are you really here, Kirk?" He smiled, and for a moment, the charm dropped. His voice dropped too. "Because I know who you are, Paula. Or maybe I should say who you were. And I am not the only one." I stood up, glass trembling in my hand. "You need to leave." He did not move. "Relax. I am not here to hurt you. But I was sent here for a reason. Let us just say someone from San Diego wants to make sure you have not forgotten what you owe." I felt the blood drain from my face. My past. The one Craig never knew. The one I promised myself I would never return to. It was standing in front of me now, wearing a polite smile and drinking wine in my living room. "I do not owe anyone anything," I said, though my voice cracked. Kirk stood slowly, placing his glass down. "You will.
Soon.
And when the time comes, I hope you choose wisely. Because what comes next depends on how much you are willing to lose." He walked to the door without another word. As he stepped out into the night, he turned back once. "Nice paintings, by the way. Just like the ones you used to hang in the gallery on 5th Street." The door shut, and my knees gave out beneath me. That name, that gallery, that part of my life. No one was supposed to know. Craig came home 2 days later, and I did not tell him anything. Not yet. Not about Kirk. Not about San Diego. Not about the person I used to be. The woman I buried so deeply, I almost believed she was never real. But now, someone had dug her up. And she might just take everything I have left. I barely slept that night. I stared at the ceiling, counting every second between each breath, praying that somehow the truth would disappear by morning. But it did not. When Craig returned from his work trip, I tried to act normal. I made dinner. I smiled. I even asked about his meetings. But something was broken, and I could feel him noticing it. 3 days later, it shattered. We were eating breakfast when he asked, "Did Kirk stop by while I was gone?" I froze, spoon midair. "Why would he?" I asked carefully. Craig shrugged. He mentioned something in passing. Said he met you. Said you two had a good conversation. My hands went cold. He said that? Yeah, Craig said. I was surprised. I never gave him our address. I only mentioned we lived near the park. So Kirk had lied. He had found me on purpose. I looked into Craig's eyes then, my husband, the man who loved me, the man who thought I was someone else. Someone safer. Someone clean. I almost told him everything. But the fear in my throat held the words hostage. Later that night, I received a text from an unknown number. It is time. Meet me tomorrow, 5 p.m. Riverside Storage. Come alone. Or Craig finds out. I stood in the dark living room for hours, staring at my phone, thinking about how far I'd come from that gallery on Fifth Street in San Diego. Back then, I was desperate, young, caught in something bigger than I understood. I had helped cover up a financial scandal, small at first, just enough to keep my job. But it grew. People were hurt. One man went to prison. I vanished before the truth could swallow me too. I had changed my name, moved to Oregon, reinvented myself. But now it was all back. I went to the storage unit the next day. Kirk was waiting. "Glad you came," he said, stepping into the shadows. "What do you want?" "I want you to help me take Craig down," he said calmly. "He is sitting on a promotion that should have been mine. And thanks to your past, I have leverage.
If you do not help me,
Your husband's life unravels, and so does yours." He handed me a flash drive. "This has documents Craig filed last quarter. You tell your husband he is being investigated. You create fear.
panic.
He resigns. I take the seat. You walk away clean." I stared at the drive in my hand. My heart pounded. My marriage or my silence? I took a deep breath and threw the drive on the ground, smashing it beneath my heel. "You picked the wrong woman," I said. Kirk's face darkened. "You just made a mistake." "No," I said, stepping toward him. "I am done hiding. Do you want to tell Craig?" "Fine. I will tell him first." And I did. That night, I sat across from my husband and told him everything. The gallery, the cover-up, the fake name, the reason I ran. Craig did not say a word for the longest time. When he finally spoke, he said only this: "I wish you had told me sooner. I would have still chosen you." That was the part that broke me. We reported Kirk. Turns out, he had a history of blackmail. He vanished before the police could catch up to him. Craig and I are still healing.
There are nights we barely speak.
Days we move like strangers. But there is honesty now. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like myself, not a shadow of a past mistake. Some wounds do not close completely. But at least now, I am not bleeding in silence. What would you have done in Paula's shoes? Can a marriage truly survive when the foundation cracks? Do secrets protect or destroy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Thank you for listening.